The bases dropped a little later than usual. You know, things happen, especially after 3-0 wins on the road in Kansas City. Soccer Down here live from May 6th. Soccer over there also live because we just mix it all up on days like this. Nick Alifi alongside. What's up, Nick?
Doing just dandy, sir. How about you? Or with the lack of sleep happening?
Yeah, I am not into double digits in the amount of hours I've slept in the last 2 days. I haven't found that yet. Hopefully, we'll catch up pretty much right after we finish up tonight. It might be bedtime at about 8:30. Oh, it's been a hectic time, but, man, it was worth it last night. I thought Atlanta United played best match in 2019, and I thought they were as dominant as they've looked in a long time. The 3-0 win over Kansas City. Yes, we know about all of the excuses out there. Nick, I have a question, and I think John's joined us as well. Do I get to use the excuse word?
From what I understand, based on what happened earlier in the season, there are no excuses. Rain is not an excuse. Champions League is not an excuse. Tired legs, new manager, new system, not an excuse. So, no, there's no excuses, sir.
I don't think injuries are an excuse.
Or is it referred to as a justification?
Robot John shows up. Yes, justification's one way to put it. Look, Kansas City was not at full strength. We all know this. They didn't have a full bench. They had a combined number of MLS starts after last night between their two center backs of 8. 6 for the year. It was makeshift for Peter Vermes' squad, but you deal with the 90 minutes that you deal with, and Atlanta United dealt with it very, very well. They took charge. They dominated possession, and I thought it was a methodical breakdown of Kansas City from minute about 10 maybe until the end. It was, no, you're not going to have the ball. We know you like to have the ball. You're not going to have the ball. That's not going to happen. Let's see where you're weak. Oh, right here. Let's overload here. Oh, okay, over on this side too. Yeah, let's get you over here too. And Ezequiel Barco was the surgeon, just slicing and dicing last night. I thought Atlanta United was strong. I thought Barco was outstanding. I thought Joseph gets the goals that he needs to get that positive feeling. And really, there's not a lot of complaints coming out of last night.
After the wipeout of Joseph in the first goal, do we have any word on any post being bent like a pretzel to score that first goal, or is it just shaken off?
He scored another one and played the rest of the night. So, I mean, he subbed out late. I mean, it's just a collision. Joseph's going to sacrifice his body to get a goal. We know that. It was just a heavy collision. There's nothing else to it.
Because that definitely did look like it was, it was a massive collision between the two. And how many goals has Tim Melia given up now in the last handful of games?
A lot, but he's had a rotating cast of characters in front of him. I mean, Matt Beasler out for a while has hurt. Andreu Fontes out for this one hurts. I think the biggest thing that hurts is even beyond those two injuries. It's Iko Para being gone, because you see the value of having a center back with range for Atlanta and Miles Robinson, how good he's been. Iko Para was that for Kansas City. Now you have Beasler and Fontes as your two starters when they're healthy, and neither one's exactly quick, and it shows at times. And when you have a possession team, you're going to have those breakdowns, those mistakes. You don't have anybody to bail you out like Iko Para used to for Kansas City, and Melia gets exposed. Kansas City just got frustrated. I thought, you see it all the time when you have two possession teams play, and one of them gets the possession, the other one doesn't. The one who doesn't, after a while, they get frustrated because they're not used to having to defend for 60, 70 minutes at a time. That's not what they want to do. They want the ball. They want to move the ball side to side. They want to do all the things that Atlanta United did. They wanted control of the game. Kansas City just never could get control of the game, and Atlanta punished them for it, just like Atlanta's been punished at times this season. Atlanta punished Kansas City for their lack of possession and just broke them down over time.
Thomas can win. this afternoon. Real quick, Nick, and then we'll head your way. Thomas Gwynn says, this isn't college sports where the quality of your opponents matters. It does not matter who you beat or win. It only matters how many points you have at the end of the season.
That's exactly the point. Thank you, Thomas. That's exactly the point I was going to make. There's no coaches poll here for these kind of wins. If you're walking out, how many points are you walking out with? That's the only question that needs to be answered at the end of the night. And what we're seeing is that those passes that we saw at the beginning of the year that were going to no one, and then later on started being placed toward the general direction of someone, are now starting to find that someone. And it's part of the process. And it's what we talked about. You're going to start seeing who this team really is, in my opinion, in June. And, is it June yet? No. So there may be one or two more performances that are going to kind of be a little head scratching at times. But I still think that everything is trending in the right direction. There's no excuses, as people have been so delicately pointing out as we've moved through the season. There are some justifications here and there. But, guys, this was a great win. I don't care if you're against a depleted opponent or not, because God knows what would have happened had we lost this game, what the narrative would have been. So I'm happy to walk away with 3 points, and no matter who's on the field, in a very tough environment. And I think that this is more proof that with patience, the system can and will work.
The thing that jumped out to me here is, we've talked about progression and we've talked about making progress week after week, and that's not something that people want to hear, but I really urge you guys to listen and check out post-match comments from people like Pep Guardiola, from managers of that ilk, because the season is a project. The season is a journey, and you're not at your top, your absolute best on day one. You're adding layers, you're adding wrinkles. Frank de Boer said it when he went to Palace. I believe he said it when he came here as well. It's going to take some time. 6 months is what it takes to implement the system that I want to play. That's very typical for a possession-oriented team, and you're adding layers as you go. Now, you had complications early on that, he did not expect to have his 2 starting outside backs injured at the beginning of the season. Had to deal with that. Had to play 3 in the back because you wanted that extra bit of security. All right, you fix that. You're getting more numbers forward. Now you're creating more chances on a regular basis, but last night was the night where I thought you added in increasing numbers 2 very important layers to a possession team. You got in between the lines a lot more. As Kansas City was forced backwards where they're not comfortable defending deep. They didn't drop, they didn't bunker, they were forced backwards by Atlanta's pressure. Atlanta found the gaps between the midfield 3 and the backline 4. And it was Gressel, it was Pitti, it was Barco sitting in those gaps, winning possession, and combining and opening up bigger gaps. But then the other side of it, too, and this is coming from a defensive perspective, when they lost possession, so, okay, it's all layers. You get possession. All right, cool. You force Kansas City back. Good. You start getting into the gaps, so Kansas City gets worried, so they have to sit that back even deeper. They have to try to move around to find you. Okay, good. You're going to lose possession from time to time, right? It's going to happen. But you have Kansas City pinned in. You have your numbers forward because you're organized. And the ball turns over. What do? You win it back before 3 seconds. Flat out. That's the magical 3-second rule that Barcelona played under, Ajax played under, all the possession teams play under. You lose possession. You fight to win it back in 3 seconds. You don't, then you drop and you get organized. How many times last night did Atlanta regain possession? And these are your numbers. These are your guys who led the team in regaining possession. Darlington Nagbe 10 times. Darlington Nagbe played a match last night that will be lost in the shuffle because of Barco's night, because of Joseph's night. Darlington Nagbe had 1 bad pass all night. He only lost possession 4 times, period, which is ridiculous for the amount of touches that he gets. Absolutely ridiculous. And he gained possession 10 times. Eric Rametti, another central midfielder, gained possession more times than he lost it. Doesn't happen very often. Barco gained possession 6 times. Barco, your player of the week for what he did going forward, gained possession 6 times. Gressel regained possession 5 times. those are the types of numbers that when you really dig into this one, you're like, okay, things are starting to come together, because possession is not just about knocking passes side to side. Possession's about breaking an opponent down, wearing them out, also staying organized and getting your team set up to regain possession when you do lose it by staying organized. I thought Atlanta United showed more different layers last night than they have all season long, Nick.
Yeah, and we're going to get into Champions League later on, but a good example of that is when you see the current Ajax team playing and they lose the ball, they swarm to whoever has it. It almost looks like murder the man with the ball in a way, and it is kind of helter-skelter as it can appear. There is a method behind the madness, and I think that with Atlanta United, you're starting to see bits of that. When you see Ezekiel Barco dropping back in these lung-busting runs, to me, that right there is where this team is going. The heart that it's showing, those are the things that I look for when I see how a team is progressing under new leadership. And when you see Ezekiel Barco, somebody who, and I put this out on Twitter earlier today, it's kind of funny how last year we had so many people who were ready to run the guy out of town. And now you see this and you're like, wow, that's almost exactly what Miggy used to do, running back, these lung-busting runs, getting the ball, turning it around, getting it back into to our players' feet. It's top-class performance and what we expected from a person of his caliber and his, frankly, the dollar value attached to him. So, and if I can say one thing, Michael Parkhurst, I don't know what kind of award we need to invent for that man, but we need to get him one, because that guy's played everywhere across the back line. He has not complained. And to be quite honest, did anyone else expect someone of his age to be able to get up and down the line like him? Probably not. But I want this man to have an award. We need to go ahead and put our brains together to collect the brain power and invent an award for this man.
Yeah, I thought Parkey was outstanding. And I hope everybody saw the explanation that DeBoer gave, because look, I know if you're not used to these sorts of things and you see Michael Parkhurst at left back in your starting lineup, you're like, what in the world is going on? One, you can play across the back line in a team that you're going to dominate possession. Who was Barcelona's, maybe their most consistent defender in the last few years of Pep's run there, and even afterwards? Javier Mascherano. A 5'7" defensive midfielder playing on the back
Short
line.
people unite.
Yeah, because you have possession. You're not defending in the same way. You're not asking Mascherano to be the guy who's going to go up and win every header and fight and scrap and win the long balls. No, you're going to have the ball, and you want a guy who can play. Parkhurst can do that, but then he can also give you your 1v1 defending against a guy like Johnny Russell, who was their biggest threat, who really didn't do much of anything in this match. That's full credit to Michael Parkhurst. The one time I felt really, really bad for Parkhurst, though, first half, he made a long run, about a 60-yard run down the wing. Had space, calling for it, didn't get it. Barco, I think, had gotten it after, I think he'd come over from the right side. Parkhurst was looking for the long ball cross, didn't get it. Then Barco plays after Parkhurst was kind of catching his breath and recovering back. And Barco played him into the corner, and Parkhurst just waved at the ball no, I'm not chasing that one. I'm done. I need to catch my breath here. Felt bad at that time. But other than that, now Parkhurst was outstanding last night. There's really nobody to look at with any kind of side eye about that performance last night. It was a team performance, and it was very strong. Yes, against a team that had some weaknesses, and you beat them up for it and were never in any doubt of losing that match.
But once again, a lot of folks are going to sit there and say, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's scoreboard, and at the end of the year, all the wins add up. Jason Bell on Twitter says that FTB guides Atlanta United to their first win over Sporting Kansas City. No small feat, regardless of injuries. Hashtag overreaction Monday.
I'm waiting for the day that DeBoer gets the credit he deserves for all of the flexibility that he has shown. Michael Parkhurst starting in 3 different roles this season across the back line based off what's needed. We've seen Jeff Larinowitz and Eric Hermeti play together. We've seen one of them play at a time. We saw them play in a 3-4-3. Now we're seeing them in a 4-3-3. You're seeing the fluidity of Gressel, Pitti, Barco, Joseph up top, along with Nagbe. Things have definitely evolved over the season, which is what you want. I think he's pulling all the right strings right now. I think there's still layers to grow. I think you're going to have to turn to some players here in this next month with all the games. You're going to have to see what a Dion Pereira can do in an extended run out. You're going to have to see how you replace Ezequiel Barco now. We'll get into that as we go. You're going to have to see what you can get out of Breck Shea over this next run of games because you're not going to be able to play Parkhurst at left back against everybody. How are you going to make this work? So far, I think he's learning. I think he's developing. I think he's adding weapons for Atlanta United as the year goes on.
I'm right there with you. And to see P.T. Martinez, and there was the one chance that he kind of got through there with the left early on, and it was just wide of the post. And you're once again, you're seeing PT kind of just once again, it's steps and steps and steps and steps and steps. And I can't tell you how many people that I've had to kind of talk this whole process through. It's like, okay, a certain player comes up, you sit there and you mention, okay, here's what's going on with this player. It's going to take time. And now we're seeing the fruits of all of this with insert player here pretty much, and how Frank DeBoer has been working the lineup and being able to have a malleable mindset when it comes to game-by-game situations. And Jason, to your point, I know a lot of folks are going to get wrapped up in the offense, and they're going to look at Joseph and they're going to look at Ezequiel Barco. But I honestly, and I will be one of the first people that will continue to trumpet this, the efforts of Darlington Nagbe cannot be overlooked for his key to seeing where Atlanta United has been. So I think that we can't say enough about what Nagbe has been able to do in multiple positions in single games at some point. But I think that Nagbe's efforts this year have been absolutely top drawer.
Nagbe with 94% passing last night. He might have had 2 bad passes out of his 70. He had 1 in his own half. That's it. 25 passes in the opposition's half, 88% there. We talked about regaining possession. Darlington Nagbe creates the first goal with a ball that splits 2 defenders, splits the lines, picks out Ezequiel Barco, who then hammers a shot at Mealy, who can't hold it. Joseph sacrifices his body charging in. If you have not heard them, let's go ahead and catch the highlights from last night on FS1. John Strong and Stuart Holden on the call.
It is Sporting Kansas City changing to black, which they tend to wear instead of the light blues when they're on national TV. Atlanta this evening, they call it the King Peach in white and in orange. For Joseph Martinez to get away from Graham Smith. Owen Barat, last man back as it comes wide to P.T. Martinez. Martinez trying to catch Mealy out there on the near post, and he puts it just wide. Nagbe able to slide that one in, though. Here's Barco running on. Barco going to let fly. Mealy, a dangerous rebound. Martinez is there! Might have paid the price for it. Joseph Martinez poked away from behind by Gutierrez. Clearance only as far as Barco! What a goal! Couldn't finish the first time. It created a goal. Puts that one straight past Melia.
It's hard for Melia because you're going to see on this angle there's a lot of bodies in front of the goal. So as Barco cuts across this one, he's shielded there by Gutierrez and by Smith. He comes back towards his near post, and it's a well-placed finish.
Gressel thinking about teeing up. He scored twice from outside the box this year. Going for number 3. Guzan got a piece of it. It's out for a corner. Can Atlanta slam the door shut? Barco running at Barat, handing off to Joseph Martinez. Got around Sanovic. Joseph Martinez! 2 goals coming in at 7 games. 2 goals tonight. He is back, and it sure looks like Atlanta United are back.
And then now once again from Martinez, the composure. But because he has Gressel to his right, it means that Graham Smith has to honor that pass. So as in this moment right now, he can't close him down because he's trying to shade him to that side. It opens up the gap then for Martinez, and it's a great finish.
Here come Atlanta United. Slow start to things, but there is life now in the defending champions. A thumping 3-0 win for Atlanta United.
That's the highlights from FS1 last night. Stuart Holden and John Strong on the call. Very positive about Atlanta United being back. Let's hear from a couple of the figures from Atlanta United. We'll start with goalkeeper Brad Gazan.
Most complete performance. From start to finish, I thought we were excellent. It was a professional performance. We were patient. We didn't turn the ball over easily in terms of our passes and trying to force passes. We were patient and fair play. Listen, goals change games, and Joseph again puts his body on the line for the first one. Great goal. Second one is even better.
Important that you started this 8-game stretch off with such a good performance?
Yep, we talked about it before the game. As I mentioned to you last week, when you play a lot of games like this back-to-back in a row, it's important to get off to a good start, but also for the confidence going into the other games. When you play well, as we did tonight, you're ready for the next one. Mentally, it becomes easier to play that amount of games in such a short amount of time. So it's a good start. Doesn't mean we're the best team in the league. Doesn't mean that everything you guys are going to write. It means that we've had a good start to this set of games. We got to make sure we keep going.
How does the team respond?
Yeah, listen, we've known that obviously this is a possibility of him going. We've got talented guys on our bench that can step in and not only do a job but carry on where he's going to leave off, because I thought he was great again tonight. His work rate on the ball, his vision, his ability to play vertical at times was very good. And, it'll be a miss. We obviously wish him well. We want to make sure he stays healthy down there. But it's a huge honor to represent your country at a World Cup. So, like I said, we wish him all the best, and it's down to us as a group to make sure we fill in as a replacement for him.
Yeah, but you're not going to be the replacement.
Credit to Mikey Alfano for getting us that video of Brad Gazan, getting that audio for us. We can flip it that way. So, Brad, 3 clean sheets in the last 4. It's not just Brad Gazan. It's the back line as a whole. Nick, I mean, we've talked about the attack starting to click and all the chances being created, but you have to give this back line a ton of credit.
Oh, you have to. You have to. When you talk about the challenges that the back line has faced from minute 1 of this season, whether it be through injuries and this sort of patchwork, who's going to play here and when, okay, you cover this guy, we're going to do that. And it didn't seem to work earlier on. And now things are starting to come together. And that back line gelling, that will be something that this team can look at. Even let's say in the land of make-believe that against Toronto that it's tough early on. You don't have to worry about that back line. When you talk about 3 clean sheets out of 4 games, that's something that you can hang your hat on, and that's the starting point, I think, for this team to gel. When we talk about Frank wants to build out of that back, he wants to make sure that defense is built up and structured in the way he wants it, they operate, how they're supposed to operate, when they're supposed to operate a certain way. You can't walk away from that, guys, and that's something that, in the end, LGP, if he wants to be the captain of this team going down the road, this is his opportunity to really step up and say, hey, this is my spot here in the middle. Parkey may move around wherever he's going to move around. Franco, if he can stay healthy. But this is my back line, and we're going to run it a certain damn way, and this is the way it's going to be done. I think that this is absolutely phenomenal, the way that this back line has been able to handle adversity and move forward. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. You guys are seeing something different. Feel free to point it out to me.
No, it's important because, we'll go all the way back to 2017 where Tata Martino wanted more security on the back line and went to 3 in the back. Last year, you went back and forth, and at the end, it was, we're going to be a tough team to break down first. And we'll find goals in transition, but we're going to be a defensive team in the postseason. And it worked. Frank de Boer came in. One of the things he wanted to do was the same things that Tata Martino wanted to do. Shore up the back line, make it a little more consistent, a little harder to break down. You didn't have Escobar to do that early, so you went to 3 in the back. Honestly, when you really start looking at the mistakes on goals, it's a lot of individual mistakes. It's not system. The IQ with this group, with LGP, with Parkhurst, Lorenowitz when he drops in, and Miles, for a young player, he picks it up really quickly. It's been individual breakdowns, not system-wide. So then you go back to 4 in the back, and it's been very effective that way too. And that it's been very effective whether it's 2 holding midfielders in front or 1. And that's a credit to the training day in and day out because you just get more comfortable and it becomes second nature. That's where this team feels right now. You know, Brad Kazan, even in the majority of these matches, he doesn't have a lot to do, which is good. You want a bored goalkeeper, and Brad Kazan in general has been a bored goalkeeper this year. It's a very good place to be.
Yeah, when you're talking about this sort of the genes of Ajax, and you're talking, and of course you filter that into the Barcelona sides and tiki taka, however you want to run it. It's that back line that really, as much as everyone talks about the star power up front for those teams, that back line and their ability to control a game, and if they need to move forward and attack, they can do it. If they need to just hang back and just settle things down, they can do it. That was a hallmark of both Ajax and Barcelona. And that's what you want out of a team like Atlanta United, where you have that same sort of instruction, that same sort of style coming in. And if the back line can somewhat, just think about it for a second out there, if you get a streak of games where this back line is healthy, it's going to be something special. Now, the key is that back line has to stay healthy. And I'm looking square over at Franco Escobar, and please, God, don't run into Guzan at any point this season going forward. But let's just get a string of games together where they're healthy and together and watch what happens when this team can do that.
And then when you can start to incorporate maybe a John Gallagher. Looks like a Mikey Ambrose actually coming back sooner than we all expected. Didn't expect him back until after the international break. He's training. I don't know if he's going to get a game with the twos first. I don't know if he necessarily needs it, but Ambrose might be able to contribute before the end of the month. You've got some options. You have Florentin Pogba, who's still kind of knocking the rust off and getting to where he can give you more than a substitute appearance of consistent play. It's a process, and I feel like this team is building that all of those steps week in and week out. Now, this is where it gets tested, because all of that time training over the last month, 6 weeks, after you didn't have a lot of time to train because of the number of matches, you've had that now. Well, you're not going to have a lot of time to train between now and June 1st because of the number of matches coming up. There's going to be some video sessions. There's going to be a lot of conversations, but not a lot of time to really incorporate big changes. So hopefully you've been able to create the foundation that will ride you out over this next month. One person Brad Kazan talked about was Ezequiel Barco. Barco was outstanding again last night. I mean, you think you've seen the best of Barco in an Atlanta United shirt, and then he goes out and plays the next week. 6 shots, 3 on target. He created 5 chances. I mean, the guy gets a goal, forces the big save that leads to the first goal for Martinez, creates 5 chances for others, picks up an assist, does the defensive work that Nick talked about, a 50-yard run at one point, goes back, wins the ball, and then wins a foul inside his own 18 to relieve the pressure. Ezequiel Barco is showing you every bit of why he was a record transfer and why he was one of the top young players out of South America when he came to Major League Soccer. Frank de Boer talked about it. Barco will be today heading to Buenos Aires to join up with Argentina's U20 squad. They go to Spain to train for 10 days before going to the U20 World Cup in Poland. De Boer talked about Barco. He also talked about Pity Martinez and kind of what's next. Here's Frank de Boer from last night.
Yeah, it's a pity, that he will leave because, last year he struggled sometimes, and now you really see what he's capable of, and he's getting strong. You see in 1-against-1s also he's protecting the ball well, making good decisions. So. Yeah, it's bad for us, because you want one of your best players in form. You want to keep, of course, but others have to stand up at that moment. So I have confidence in all the other ones, and it's a pity that he's not here, but we have another pity. So. he has to make a difference.
Speaking of him, he looked more comfortable tonight on the ball.
Yeah.
The shorter, safer passes and some.
Higher percentage shots. You cannot expect that suddenly. He will play his best and step by step, and he has to get the rhythm of the MLS. Also the confidence to get back. And you saw already some highlights from him that, this is the PT that we want. And he's coming there. And so hopefully on Wednesday, Toronto, he has another step forward.
In the first half, y'all did something that I haven't seen.
Again, credit to Mikey Alfano for capturing that. What does this team look like against Toronto? That's been one of the biggest questions that I've been getting since the match ended last night. And I don't think the answer is going to be the same as to what it looks like against Toronto, what it looks like against Orlando, what it looks like against Vancouver, and so on and so forth. But the next one is Toronto at home in a couple of days. Nick, how do you think they replace Ezequiel Barco?
It's going to be hard. If you put Villalba in, you're going to make up for it with speed, but I don't think it's any big secret that he doesn't necessarily going to have that technical ability to break down should they decide to start dropping back in numbers. You're going to have to. It's going to be on PT to help really unlock things, and I think Nagbe's going to be someone who will probably even have a stronger role. And I know that we're going to aim a lot at PT and say, hey, it's on you to make things happen, but Nagbe's going to be called upon, because if I'm Frank and I have to look and say, okay, I need two players who can really unlock this team's defense, who am I going to look at if Barco isn't there? And it has to be Nagbe and PT, and making sure that those two are in perfect concert, and just tell Tito, hey, pick your spots, but don't try to win this game on your own. You're going to have to utilize your teammates around you. But guys, if it has to be Nagbe, it has to be Pitti. That's my final answer on that one. But it's going to be a tough game, because Toronto has the capability of making some real showcase goals happen.
I think the other one who's going to have to step up a bit here too is Julian Gressel. And when you just look at it from the touches perspective, and it's not, I thought Gressel was okay last night. We've seen better from him, but he wasn't bad by any stretch. But it's straight up the touches over the last couple of matches. Barco's been 70. He was 81 last night. Pitti is right around 70, so you think he'll pick up some of those. You want to find him a little bit more in the final third. Gressel's been at 40, 50 over the last couple of matches. He's going to have to get a little more involved, especially if it's Villalba who checks in for Barco, which is the obvious one. Tito's the player that you probably want to see with that 40, 50 touches in dangerous spots, in space, running at people. Gressel, somebody you want involved in the possession play a little bit more with Barco out. A little bit different kind of player, but he has that passing ability. We know he can deliver the killer ball. I think you're going to want to get him a little more connected to Pitti and to Joseph and to Nagbe, and that'll help replace Barco a little bit.
And for me, I'm looking at possibly having a Dion Pereira as a part of your 18s again, and having that individual that can come in, and if Tito can only give you 60, 65, or 70, then have Dion Pereira come in and give you that speed that we would normally see with Tito when he comes in for 30. You have a Dion Pereira as a part of the speed factor that can come in and help close the deal if that's what you're looking for in that final 15 to 20 minutes as well.
Pereira gives you the 1v1 ability too. That's a good like for like. They're different in that Pereira is probably a little bit more technical than Tito, but they both like to go 1v1, and you want to create 1v1 opportunities for them. So Dion Pereira, I think being in the mix, I think he's that guy already, but seeing him maybe get a start like in a Vancouver or maybe even against an Orlando, depending on how this one goes, I think you want to get him a start here soon. I hoped last night they could have gotten John Gallagher in to get his debut under his belt and just get him involved, because you're going to need him. You're going to need some of these different pieces, and that Nick, it's something that was talked about when Frank DeBoer was hired, and it's something that when you look at an Ajax or clubs like an Ajax, you've got to get those young guys minutes when you can, because when schedule compression hits or when injuries hit, you're going to have to turn to them. And I think that's something that Frank DeBoer's excited about bringing guys through. It's something he talks about a lot. But this is going to be the time where Dion Pereira, John Gallagher, maybe an Andrew Carlton, maybe others are going to be necessary.
Yeah, and let's kind of bring the camera out a little bit and not just say, okay, for Toronto and Orlando, how are we going to handle player rotation and such? But also down the road, these players are going to end up having to step up and replace other players. If a European team comes in the summer and next winter window for the right amount of money for Barco, he could be gone, and we're going to need someone to step up, and Dion Pereira could be that person who does it. Now, the model that we talk about so often is, if you're young enough, it doesn't matter. Are you good enough? That's the question. And so what I want to see, especially out of an Andrew Carlton, we know you're a young player, and we know that you have ability. But what I want to see is, has Andrew Carlton topped out? Have we seen what we're going to see out of Andrew Carlton, or will he make the most of this opportunity with schedule compression, with rotation? Can he get in and make a name for himself? If not with Atlanta United, guys, not even with Atlanta United, if he can showcase enough skills to make himself marketable to another team and you can get some sort of value for him, then so be it. But I want to see what this kid has, because we keep talking about theoretically what Andrew Carlton could be. But I think it's time to start saying, okay, kid, you're in the starting 11, you're going to be on the field. What can you do for us in this situation?
And it's important right now because, to be honest, I think he is the most like for like in terms of playing style that you have to replace Ezequiel Barco. If you want to keep the flow that you have right now, the closest replacement is Andrew Carlton. Now, there is still the question if he gets the call up to the US U20 squad. I think it's a bit of a long shot. I think some other players have had a little more time to show themselves. A guy like Brendan Aronson, I think, has played his way into that spot. If Carlton doesn't go, he feels like if you like where things are right now and you don't want to mess with it too much, you don't want to look at that and say, man, Tito's not the same type of player. I would replace Gressel with Tito right now, but I need another player on the ball. Andrew Carlton is that guy. And we've seen flashes. We've seen bits and pieces. I think his time with the first team has gotten better from day one to now, what we've seen so far this year. His time in USL has been up and down. I thought last year it was very good towards the end. He was putting the team on his back a good bit. Early on it was good. He's gotten a little frustrated in his last couple of USL appearances. That I'm fine with. He's trying to make things happen. Can he do it with the talent of Atlanta United around him over this next month? I think he's going to be given an opportunity to.
And I hope he does. And I don't want people to get the wrong impression here, like I'm trying to run the kid out of town, because if you've watched him play for any period of time, you know he has ability. That's not in doubt. But it's, the issue with being a high-level professional is, can you keep that level of production consistently? And as you said, on the twos, it's been sort of inconsistent, but with that first team experience, if he can make it happen, then I think that this will be a potential launching point for his career. If he can just look back and say, I've had a couple of games here where I started for you, Frank, and I produced well above what you thought I was going to. And we've seen it in flashes, but just do it consistently. That's all I'm asking for.
And you made a good point about, what can happen down the road, and guys like Carlton, Pereira, Gallagher showing themselves. That's really important, because you're going to have talent who gets sold. It's going to happen. You're going to have contracts that come up and you have to make difficult decisions. You need players ready to go straight away to step in, because what you are building here is not like what you've seen in other MLS teams over the years. You are building an identity. You are building a team that plays a certain way. You are building a team that has a certain kind of DNA. Your first option always, when you're doing that, is to promote from within. You want to play guys who have been in your system and understand it and understand all of the nuances to it and who you are. That's what you want. So the guys who are here have that huge advantage. Now they have to prove it because they have to show the front office, they have to show Frank DeBoer and the technical staff, you don't need to go out into the marketplace. I'm here. I got you. And we've seen it from Frank in history with Ajax. That's how he got his opportunity. That's how he gave players like Christian Eriksen their opportunity. That's what clubs like Ajax do. That's what Atlanta United wants to do. And when your name gets called, you have to show that, hey, I'm ready for this.
And if you look at what Edwin van der Sar said, who is the CEO of Ajax, when they were talking about what's going to happen after this Champions League run over in Europe, almost everyone you see in that Ajax uniform will be gone. And that's by design. It's not like, some clubs where, we lost all of our top tier talent. Woe is us. We're just minnows trying to keep up with the big oil money. No. That's Ajax's plan. And Edwin van der Sar said, either you promote youth or they stagnate. And we can't do that. So we sell the players off, we promote the youth, and that's how our model works. And just think about that, where you have an opportunity to use the twos as a true building block, not just, hey, this is where we stash extra players because we need to be roster compliant and we need this and we need that. No, where the twos are a dedicated launching point. If you have that, and then you don't have to go and drop 400,000 in TAM, GAM, YAM, or WHAM to whatever MLS club here. If you don't have to do that, that's phenomenal business for you. I mean, yeah, the money's there and you have to use it anyway, but you can use that money in better ways on higher level talent than just going through and just sprinkling it here or there to patch holes, because you already have dedicated players who know your system, know your culture, know the manager, know exactly what to do. And that is priceless when you're trying to run a club on a budget.
Yeah, you'll want to do it. And Atlanta's not a club on a budget, but Atlanta's a club that wants to make money. And that's part of the deal, to make money. Atlanta is, further ahead, I think, than where even Ajax is now, because Ajax has opened things up a little bit more than they're used to doing by bringing back a guy like Daley Blind and bringing in a player like Dusan Tadic. They complement what you already have. They're the missing pieces, and they're putting this team over the top right now. Atlanta United can go sign that missing piece for a lot of money if they need to. They can go sign the South American Player of the Year. They can go get a player like Barco, who is special. They can do that, but they always want to turn to what you have internally and what you've produced internally. They want to turn to that core. The core has to step up and perform when called upon, and whether that's with the twos on a regular basis, and then when you get your opportunities with the first team, you got to show that you're worthy of it. And that's, to me, that's where Atlanta United's headed. It's pretty exciting to see. Let's take a quick break here. We'll come back. We'll get into the Overreaction Monday timeline on Twitter. And then we've got Jay Riddle from the Unrelegated podcast joining us in about 15 minutes at 7 o'clock. Hang out with us. We will be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. 888-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Yeah, that's the Soccer Over There rejoin. It's the Soccer Down Here PM edition, including Soccer Over There, because it's a mega show. It's what happens on Mondays where there's travel involved. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us later than usual. We're going to get into the Overreaction Monday timeline right now before we call up Senor Riddle. What do we have, John?
Before we get to Ray at the top of the hour, the Colonel, looking at other teams in MLS, he said, no manager bump in Colorado on Friday. Home again on Saturday. Delayed secondary bump with a question mark. Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
So he's talking about Colorado Rapids. You guys go ahead. Say what you want.
I think I've said enough.
Has anything to say.
John.
I've said plenty. I've said plenty on Colorado by not saying anything.
Yeah. You know, John, I think it's magnificent sometimes when things are predicted and they largely go your way. I just think that's a magnificent thing in the world when that happens. I was going to come on here today and cut this massive Ric Flair promo on Jason, but I just think that he got the goals right from for Colorado, so good for him. You know, there's some money to be made in Vegas there, so I can't go full Ric Flair promo.
No,
but I will say that we were proven correct in our estimate that they were going to be a dumpster fire, and we were largely proven correct.
Well, it's one of those that I think actually we were probably both right. Like, they were definitely a dumpster fire. I mean, the look on the Colorado bench face after they conceded the late winner, like it looked like pure dumpster fire. There was a little bit of a bump. Freddie Montero helped with that bump when he decided to give away 2 penalties. And the second one of the most comical penalties I've ever seen, where Freddie Montero used his teammate as a projectile and threw him at the pile of Colorado Rapids players going up for a header. And then, like, threw his hands up like, what? No, I didn't do anything.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, he used a teammate as a weapon. Anyway. Colorado's got a lot of problems. Connor Casey is just one man. I don't think he's going to be able to fix it, even if he suits up and plays up top with Kai Kamara. I don't know what you do here, honestly, with the Rapids, because you had to make the change on Anthony Hudson. You should have made it going into the season. You didn't. Now you're even further behind.
Can we swap him out for New Mexico United?
Well, no, we're not kicking them out of the league because that's not how this one operates. New Mexico United is exciting, and they're actually drawing more, I think, than Colorado right now. But New Mexico also has to win some games, too. They've had a lot of draws mixed in. So I like New Mexico United a lot. It's a great story. But, no, we're not kicking the Rapids out because the Rapids should be further along than they are. A couple things about the Rapids to keep in mind over the long haul, and it's really, in my opinion, affects who they're going to turn to as the next manager, because they have to get this decision right. You did not get it right. I mean, let's be real. Like, after Gary Smith left, and you won an MLS Cup, and then it just never progressed. He left a year later. Pablo Mastroeni was bad, had one great year where they were very defensive, but they got to the Western Conference Final, and then really bad. Then he's shown the door. Anthony Hudson comes in, and it never gets out of the bad level. You got to get this hire right, because you have a lot of talent coming through. One thing they have gotten right is their academy. They've got talent coming. You got to have somebody who can get the best out of it.
But guys, do they really have to get it right, though? And who do they have to get it right for? Because the person who you're trying to impress doesn't even care about the team. Let's be completely honest here. Stan Kroenke, I don't even know if we, as much as we give the Crafts garbage for how they ran and continue to run the Revs. Do you think Stan Kroenke even knows that he has an MLS team at this point? I'm convinced it is one of those things where he just it's like Milton on Office Space. They just threw him down in the basement and kind of forgot he was there. I think that's what's happening right now.
And the Colorado Rapids are the stapler?
Yeah, no, it's like, hey, we actually fired this guy a few months ago, but we've just kept paying him, so we just kind of corrected the error. Like, I think one day the money's going to stop flowing from Kroenke.
It's like Costanza with the Yankees is what you're saying.
Exactly. There we go. And so people are just going to be like, wait, hold up. We have a team in Colorado. What the hell are you talking about? They don't have to do anything. Kroenke doesn't care how many people come through the gate. It doesn't matter. That's the downside and the sad thing about the Colorado Rapids is that they could put anybody. They could hire one of us to be the manager, and it won't make a difference in Kroenke's eyes. So who do they have to make this the right choice for? The fans? I hope they do, because those fans deserve it. You know, if you're showing up and you're spending your hard-earned money getting a ticket, by God, you deserve to see a good product on the field.
Here's where I'll disagree a little bit. Stan Kroenke might not be involved on a day-to-day, which there's a lot of sporting directors who would say that that's a great thing. Some owners, you don't want them involved in the day-to-day, but he's giving you money to work with. Last year, Atlanta United was the 9th highest payroll in the league. Now, Atlanta United spent a lot on transfer fees. That's a different category. But on payroll, $11.3 million. Colorado Rapids, $11 million. That was why what Anthony Hudson said got him fired when it did. Because you're not spending like a bottom team. You might have bottom players, as he said, but somebody's picking them and somebody's paying them. The money is being spent. The money's been spent in this back line, and it's garbage. It's not that you don't have the resources to put a better team on the field. You're just spending Stan Kroenke's money in a really stupid way. That's got to be addressed.
Right now, you look at what Kroenke has just in Denver alone. And it's the Nuggets, the Avs, the Rapids, the Mammoth, which are the indoor lacrosse team. He also has Pepsi Center and Dick's Sporting Goods Park, in addition to Altitude Sports and Entertainment and KSE Radio Ventures, which has 4 stations in the Denver area. So it is a beautifully integrated 3D business model in the town of Denver for all of the properties that he has. And it has been long thought that Kroenke just uses Arsenal as the cash cow that helps fend off everything else, and that some of the things in Denver are just write-offs on balance sheets.
Well, and maybe it is. I mean, look, I don't live in that world. I don't know how he's thinking about it. I don't think he's emotionally invested in the day-to-day of the Colorado Rapids. No. I don't think that's the case at all, and I don't know if that's a big, horrible thing. But the resources are there. You know, they built Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and I was reading, I got tagged in a thread about where they built it and how all that went down, and that was supposed to be a much larger development. The timing was very bad in the financial crisis, and the rest of the stuff didn't get built. It's a great facility. It's a great training ground facility, all of that. It's a very nice place to go watch a game. It's not ideal. It's not downtown. Take that part out of it. The problem is the team's not good enough because you're signing the wrong players. I mean, it's as flat out as that when you looked at the way this roster was built. And I don't know if that's on the GM Smith or if that's on Anthony Hudson's input or somewhere in between. But this roster's not good enough to compete in Major League Soccer right now, but they're spending money on it like it should be.
Okay, but Jason, here's the thing. How long has this been bad for?
Well, it's been bad for different reasons, but it's been bad for a while, yeah.
Okay, so the concern here is that if it's been bad for a long time, then a lot of people are making it's a bad system, essentially, right? They got the academy right, good for them. But this just tells me that there's no head on this monster. There's no brain power here. It's just like, all right, we're just going to throw money at a problem and see if it goes away. And that's what I say. Like, who do you have to make a good decision for? Because it doesn't look like there's anybody who is willing to do anything until results get completely horrific, or your manager goes and pops off at the mouth like an idiot.
Yeah, that's what happened to Anthony Hudson here. Mastroeni's a little bit different situation because you're talking about a club legend, and I think right when they were about to show him the door, he had the year in 2016 where they go to the Western Conference Final. That buys him 2017. It just kind of reverts back. The defense doesn't hold up. 2018, you bring in new faces at leadership positions and on the field, and none of it worked. And now you're behind again. The one thing they've gotten right, and again, I'm not sure who gets all the credit for this, but the investments there at least, is the academy. You've got Colorado Rapids youth academy teams that are among the best in the country. You've got a young player in Cole Bassett who is very, very good. You've got Sebastian Anderson, who we watched make his debut in Major League Soccer at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Very good right back. You've got talent coming through now. Now what do you do? How do you build from here? And that's, whether there's a lot of pressure on the hire or not, there's an opportunity here. Like, this is a pretty good job with the amount of money that's being spent and the talent you've got coming through. Who are you going to get? And what are you going to do to change this? Because they don't have an identity. And we talk about identity a lot in this league. They don't have it. They need to hire somebody who is going to give you that and is going to invest their time into it for a while, because it's going to take a minute, because you're going to have to burn through this roster a bit. We'll talk more Colorado Rapids the rest of the week, because it is an interesting story because of the pieces that are there, and they just can't seem to get it right. But we're going to see what Jay Riddle thinks about last night up next. Atlanta, 3-0 winners in Kansas City. We'll see what Jay Riddle of the Unrelegated podcast thought about it. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here / soccer over there / soccer wherever you are. That's what we do. Thanks for listening. Thanks for finding us tonight in a not quite normal time slot. It's usually soccer over there right now, but we're talking Atlanta and Kansas City Major League Soccer. And we are joined by Jay Riddle from the Unrelegated podcast. What's up, Jay?
Hey, guys. Welcome back to the 8.
Yes. It was a it was an 8 a.m. flight going out. It was an 8 a.m. flight coming back. And I'm on about 8 hours of sleep. It's good times. Over 2
I heard
days.
that didn't stop you. I heard that didn't stop you from getting some burnt ends, though.
Oh, Jack Stack. And we had a lot of suggestions. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in. But we ended up going to Jack Stack in downtown Kansas City and got there right after they opened on Sunday, so it wasn't crazy crowded. And I ate a lot. I usually am not a huge lunch eater, but I ate enough. That was the only meal of the day. After the game, I still wasn't hungry. I was tired, went to sleep. I was good. And the burnt ends were amazing, which I didn't know about that from a Kansas City perspective.
I was going to say, what was this burnt stuff that you were talking about here?
Burnt ends, I don't know how to describe it. It's just they're burnt pieces of meat, but they taste amazing. The thing that I had that I'd never even heard of, I'd heard of burnt ends, this cheesy corn bake side. I guess it's a Midwest thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I haven't had it, but
it was award winning.
Amazing.
I knew that, and it. I would have given it awards if I was on the judges panel. Whatever you call it, whatever award I'm given, I would have given it an award. It was amazing. We can talk barbecue down here another time. Let's talk Atlanta and Kansas City. What did you think of the match last night, Jay?
Not good enough. Should have won 7-0. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm out.
I thought it was fantastic. I've been out there to Children's Mercy Park. It is a tough place to play. Gorgeous stadium, but great barbecue, as he said, but difficult venue. I don't care how many second string players you're playing on the pitch. It's difficult to take the crowd out of it, and I think Atlanta did it at some point. But yeah, it was just great to see. You just felt like we were on the verge of converting some of those G's in the XG in some of the prior games, and it was just good to see our DP players start to produce those game-changing moments and some direct play, the stuff that we've been kind of craving the last few weeks here.
When we look at how, I guess, complete this performance was, Jay, let me just start off with Barco and his continued evolution as what a lot of folks were looking at on YouTube videos and things like that. When you look at the offense, let's just take it a third at a time, I guess, and let's just say the offense in general with Barco and with PT and with Joseph getting his 2. First off, where were you watching and what was the response from everybody when that was happening with those 3 guys off the top?
Well, Sunday night I was at home, but I was watching the match live. I opted to watch Game of the Thrones after the match. And yeah, it was one of those matches where every now and then, I think I was so spoiled last season. There were games, if you weren't at the match standing already, that plays that got you out of your seat. And there were the 2 of the 3 goals got me out of my seat, scared the poor dogs. And it's been, I can't remember really being that excited that into a match in some time with Atlanta United. I think that's part of the aggravation, is that even when we were winning matches, it just didn't feel like we were, had those golazos, those moments of excitement of our DPs just cutting down 2 players, making chances out of nothing sometimes. And that was what was exciting to me. So even though I think it wasn't our greatest match, I think the first 30 minutes, it felt like it was going to be one of those slow possession without penetration matches. Maybe we were about to see that again, but they really started to break down Kansas City. And it was just great when you talk about Barco, seeing that aggressive, assertive play and just how direct he was. It almost reminded me of Miguel Almiron several times, not just offensively, but defensively. And so you can see why we acquired Barco to be that backup to Miguel when we knew Miguel was leaving.
Nick, thoughts?
Yeah, so a question I have for you, Jay, is that when we talk to Felipe Cardenas, he talks about South American ball and how some teams are okay winning ugly, and some teams you have to win a certain way or else not a win at all. And to me, I feel like Atlanta United, we kind of grew up with this sort of cavalier ball, right, where it's fast, it's furious. If we lose, it doesn't matter as long as we're playing that hyper-aggressive style. Do you think it's more that Atlanta United is finally starting to have the shackles taken off on the attack, or maybe we're just becoming a little more accustomed to that possession-based style?
Probably a few different things. Probably we're accustomed to it, number one. Number two, the team, I think, has had the chances, has been creating chances, but has had teams that were difficult to break down. New England was that one-off where we had a team just come out wide open with us, and we saw a little bit of that, attacking flair. But I felt like our offense was always powerful, always, sort of chomping at the bit. We just couldn't get some of those chances were just a half hair off for Joseph. Some of those 1-2 touches that you saw Joseph really enabling when he came back into the midfield, they weren't coming off. We saw Joseph try to engage that play, make some passes, but they just didn't lead anywhere. The other guys didn't seem to be on the same page with one another. That started to come together. And then also it was just a perfect combination that showed, not only can we be patient and play that, possession style of ball, but it also goes to show how that can be rewarded. And when we do get that first goal, how it can open teams up, and then it can allow us to play that counterattacking style that we're so accustomed to and that we became really enthralled with. So I think it shows that this team is well-rounded, but how important it is for this team to get that first goal to open up those teams, to allow them to really attack more directly. And of course, that's always going to play in our favor.
Where's your level of expectations for this next month of a packed schedule and a lot of matches?
My goodness. It seems like we just can't hit full steam. It seems like whenever something seems to be clicking or starting to click, we get a player injured, or in this case, Barco has to leave us for the next 7 matches, which is kind of a gut punch because, he's been the one really catalyzing things with Joseph. And so it's as much as I have this feeling that PT is going to click eventually, we don't know when it is. It's going to be very important for him to continue to look like he did in this match, where he looked more relaxed, like he was getting into the groove of things a little more. He seemed less frustrated, more engaged, more connected with some of the other players like Gressel and Joseph. So that's going to be very important. I think if we can continue that momentum, I think 15 or 16 points out of the next 7 matches is definitely doable. And we're 3 matches in hand. So, it's really going to be interesting to see how this team rotates, how we kind of keep healthy, because I think it's going to be very important to stay injury free. And I know Ambrose is back, which is going to help us with some depth on that left side, but we're going to miss Barco. I mean, that's there's no doubt about that.
And it seems that Casper agrees with your appraisal of points or expectation of points when it comes to the next 8 matches or so. Let me ask it this way: you're discussing roster rotation, and obviously, with Mikey Ambrose getting back, obviously we don't have a timetable, but anticipated return seems to be ahead of what everyone has thought about. Let me get your appraisal of folks who Jason and I get to see a lot of time with ATO UTD2, and how you could see guys like a Dion Pereira or a John Gallagher integrating, and Andrew Carlton when he gets healthy, Romario when he is put in there in the 18s, looking at the guys that are kind of off the beaten track, and your ideas about seeing guys from the 2s as integral as this process could be in the next 7 or 8 matches.
Yeah, I mean, Gallagher is an interesting proposition. I think offensively, I'm actually the least concerned. We saw even that how Breck could come in as a left wing. I think he could even join up top. If you don't have Romario, then you could join him even potentially up top as well. This time Tito was put in sort of that striker role with Breck on the left. I think my concern is largely defensively, and so that's why I brought up Gallagher, and also just to have the depth where in an article, I think it was a Doug Robertson article from the AJC, or just an interview with DeBoer, and he was asked why he played Michael Parkhurst, on the left in this match, and it was quite interesting. He said, and I mean, some people don't believe this. I don't know why you wouldn't believe it, but I think it's at face value, which is that Russell tends to cut in on the left, and having Parkhurst with that stronger right side is going to give him a better opportunity to be successful in one-on-one opportunities. And that's an interesting take, because it starts to make me think of how reliant DeBoer is on our players and putting them in different positions, and is really going to put them into positions to succeed and rotate them. And so I think not only is it just about an issue with keeping legs fresh, it's also just tactically good to have other options so that you can adapt to different styles of play. And, DeBoer seems to be very flexible in that regard. So that's also another reason I'd want to see that. So I don't know if this is a time where we would necessarily see an Seydu or a Gallagher, unless maybe it's for tactical reasons. I think it's going to be interesting to see who does end up rotating in the squad. I do still have concerns defensively, which is funny because we've had clean sheets, but also I still feel like it'd be nice to have a defensive line that's played together for more than one match in the same formation. I think there is something to that, and I think it will be important to have some of that chemistry and that symmetry over this next run of matches.
All right, Jay. So the question that I have, the very pressing, supremely important question is, where does this team need to be in the table for us to get a new version of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us?
Or another song.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, gosh, it was in the off season, or sorry, the postseason that all started. So I don't know something will just have to strike me. I don't know what song we'll end up with this season, or it has to be natural. It has to be organic. I know early in the season when things weren't going well, it was a certain song from Life of Brian that inspired me to make some videos. Always look on the bright side of life, but hopefully we're in a position in the table that is much more pursuant to something positive, like Nothing's Going to Stop Us as we move forward.
Jay, what do you guys have coming up over at Unrelegated the rest of the week?
Yeah, we'll be recorded the OG podcast at Hudson FC tomorrow evening before the Wednesday game. And I don't even know if I'm going to be things are kind of still up in the air after moving and stuff like that. If I'm going to be at the tailgate, I hope to be at the match on Wednesday. So
Excuse me, sir?
I know. I'd hate to abandon you guys, so I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I'm there to hang out with you guys at the tailgate on Wednesday. I just didn't want to overcommit myself and let you down. So that's all we have going on this week. And of course, we're always making fun videos. You can always check out our podcast on all your podcatchers, as well as on Atlanta United Fan TV in video format.
I did like the callback to Barco Watch. That was a good repost.
Yeah, so I'll be posting. I went through my Google photo album that I created from all those over 150.
Yeah, I remember. I remember.
I was like, how did I even do that?
I don't know.
I don't think I'd be able to summon that up again if I tried. So, I'll be reposting most of those, I think, so this week. Or at least, I'm sorry, through the probably have enough to post a couple each day for the course of the next month until Barco returns.
Yeah, if he lights it up with the U20s in this World Cup, you might have to produce a new one or two for him. I think he's earned it.
Well, if he continues to do what he's doing, it might be another situation where we had to put on a watch to where he might be going next.
Eventually, yep. We've seen it with the U20 World Cup before. This was where Diego Maradona burst onto the scene and said, "Hello, hey, I'm here." Lionel Messi, that guy, Sergio Aguero, it's kind of a big
heard
thing.
of him.
I'm sure you guys will be keeping us abreast of that on Soccer Down Here and Soccer Over There throughout the month of what's happening with that. So
absolutely, we'll keep everybody posted. Jay, man, thanks for the time and thanks for chiming in this evening, and we'll be talking to you soon.
I appreciate you guys. Welcome back.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, come back. It is your show for the rest of it. Tweet at us, Overreaction Monday, takes, questions, whatever you got, at Soccer Down Here. If it's Atlanta United, if it's MLS, if it's Champions League, national teams, whatever, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Oh, boy. We got drama. We got drama. AS.com, the U.S. version, had an interview with Francisco Calvo. Remember, Friday, we talked about this as it broke. Calvo traded from Minnesota to Chicago. Not a shock after he had been dropped, the red card in Toronto, and he puts his hand up and says he was wrong. He messed up. But he also went back to the ether, which we know Calvo is prone to use the ether. He's done it many times, maybe too much. But
like a flamethrower to this place.
He's not 100% wrong.
No.
He was the captain of this team, but he wasn't treated like the captain of this team. He gets red carded. He gets dropped. He gets traded. He was asked to play a different position this year when they brought in Ike Opara. He did the best he could with it. He has played on the left before, and I think he would have ended up being okay. But he picks up that red card, and it was never the same. Felt a little knee-jerk, a little bit. I mean, you'd had some issues with Calvo, but not to the point that I thought, okay, this is a club in Minnesota United that turned down $2 million for him in the offseason. And then a few months later, they're like, yeah, we'll trade him for, a few $100,000 and tam, gam, wham, whatever, over a couple of years. That's a big change all of a sudden, and the line of the day and week and everything.
Hit it.
Calvo said, "Me tiró a la basura como si fuera un rookie." He threw me in the trash like a rookie. Oh, man.
So there's a supporters group for Minnesota called Fist of the North Star, which I have placed on my must-follow list for all those out there on Twitter. I have to see what they're saying about this because that's beyond nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Heath is a guy who gets some interesting reactions sometimes from the fan base, and it's kind of a mixed bag. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Chicago Fire hosting Minnesota United.
You like apples?
That's in Chicago, so
still, you're going to have people traveling.
Minnesota fans. Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't say anything about the fans. So, I mean, I
don't know.
Minnesota fans traveling, I don't care. I'm wondering what, the fan base's reaction is to it. It didn't seem like it was absolute shock, but it was kind of like, whoa, okay. I'm curious to see if Calvo is gesticulating wildly in the general direction of the Minnesota bench.
Oh, I'm all for gesticulation.
Calvo scores the winner. Stoppage.
Oh, that'd be even better.
That would be pretty.
Then that would be accelerated gesticulation, sir.
Yeah, it'd be something. It might not be safe for work.
Nope.
If that happens, they're going to have to escort Heath to the airport and just say, just bye. Wherever you're going to go, just go. You're not staying here.
Yeah.
Put the jacket over his head with 3 armed guards. Rush him like one of those witnesses that's heading to the plain brown wrapper and try to get him out of Dodge.
Yeah. All right. What do we have on the timeline on an overreaction Monday? I know we had some stuff that popped up after the match last night. We've had others throughout the day.
Yes. Stuff that has popped up throughout the day. Let me get to the stuff that's closer term first, and I'll work backwards. Shiva says, we've not been shown any red cards so far, praying it will stay that way. Do you think it has anything to do with asking more discipline from Frank DeBoer of the players?
No, I don't think the discipline that he was asking was really related to that. I think it was just more about the expectations that he had from a professionalism standpoint, just about, showing up on time and let's get down to work, let's respect one another's time and get the day done and get out of here, that type of stuff. I don't think it was really related to bad behavior on the field because, honestly, there hasn't really been that over the 2 years so far with Atlanta United. You've had, what red cards are we thinking of from the last 2 years? You had the Brad Gazan tackle. It's a bad tackle. Happens. You had LGP second yellow in Minnesota where he got frustrated, lost his head. Dumb decision. It happens. What other red cards am I forgetting about? You had Kyle Rainish get a red card in 2017 with a mistimed tackle. And again, another goalkeeper getting a red card. It does happen. I don't think it's been like an issue of bad discipline. LGP plays on the edge. We know LGP plays on the edge, and sometimes that's going to burn you, but you're also going to get great play out of him as well, so you take the trade-off. Beyond that, I think it's more about the training stuff and just little things like that about building a culture and continuing to, add to the culture that's already here, but Frank DeBoer bringing his touches to it, and that's what he's used to. This is a guy who played at Ajax and grew up at Ajax and then later managed at Ajax. There's a definite culture there. Barcelona, we know there's a definite culture there. You're trying to bring some of that here where you've got just a couple of years and you're still honestly figuring out what that looks like.
All right, Nick, here we go.
Yep. Let's go.
From Turner, the Red Fox Lab, who by all indications is a very good boy. Because on his avatar, he is wearing Atlanta United gear. He's wearing a 5 stripes with a gold paw print in the middle of it for his bandana. So that qualifies.
That sounds like a heckin' good boy right there.
So Turner's question through Michelle Notalab. The team does badly, blame the coach. The team does well, it's solely the players. Will FTB ever get any credit? Question mark, #overreaction Monday.
No, I don't think he will. And it's going to be sad because when you're following somebody like Tata Martino, you can't help. You never want to be the guy who follows the guy, right? That's like the infamous saying. But I think that when Frank came in and he had that schedule and he had those injuries and it was kind of a rough start for him. Not kind of, it was a rough start. Let's call it, it is what it is. I just don't know if this fan base is necessarily going to buy into him. You know, I hope they do. I think he deserves it. You know, he's not the best interview in the world from a charisma standpoint, but at the same time, he's somebody who he's doing the job and he's instilling a culture. And I think he'll finally start getting his due a year or two down the road. And people are freaking out when European clubs come calling. I think that's the only time we're going to, in this city, realize that Frank was doing a good job, is when some major club calls up and says, hey, Frank, come rebuild our team. Come here and do what you did at Atlanta. We understand that Crystal Palace and Inter were garbage shoots, and it is what it is. Fix us. Then we're going to have a problem, right? And somebody made the comparison earlier that Tata may have been like your the kindly grandfather, right? And Frank is sort of like the stepdad you don't want to listen to. Don't tell me to eat my kale, stepdad. You're not my real dad. That's sort of what I get, the vibe I get when I talk to people about Frank the Board. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I think it is too. It's look, the Premier League is the most talked about league in English language soccer coverage in the United States. So when you have the Crystal Palace situation and how that went down and all the tabloid nature of it, that's what a lot of people know. And I see a lot of things recycled from that time that are brought up about Frank. And it's a shame because I think he took a job here that's a very difficult job to take because you're following Tata Martino. You're coming off the heels of a championship. Where do you go from that? Generally, you take a step back because it's hard to stay, especially in MLS. And the other side of it, too, is this was a team that Tata Martino built from basically scratch. He had 4 signings, maybe, when Tata Martino took over. He was able to build a team that he wanted to from scratch. You don't get to do that really ever. Frank came in and inherited a team, and, oh, yeah, you had the Miguel Almiron saga that he was here training, and you thought maybe it's not going to happen. And so then you have to deal with that. Okay, it does happen. Okay, now you have to deal with that. Like, it was complicated. I think he's done a pretty good job, all things considered, of putting this together. And I do more and more that I watch this team and more that I listen to Frank and some of the things he's talking about and the way he sees the game. He is trying to take what Tata Martino built in a short period of time that won a championship, but maybe wasn't built for the long haul. Because think about how many times Tata changed things up and changed the approach and things like that. Okay. Frank is trying to build what Sporting Kansas City has, that identity. That's what Bob Bradley's trying to do with LAFC, that identifiable style of play. And it is from Frank's experiences. It's from his upbringing at Ajax. It's from his time at Barcelona. It's from his time working with, one of the geniuses of the game in Johan Cruyff, working with a manager who some people really like, some people don't, but I think he's a manager who has to be respected in Louis van Gaal. And, those are the same 2 managers that Pep Guardiola cites. They see the game in similar ways, and the more and more I dig into it, I'm like, okay, I think Frank is looking at this like what Pep has done in Barcelona, where he took something, added to it. Now, like, you can't play any other way. Then he went to Bayern, took what he had brought from his experiences to Bayern, didn't say, we're going to play this way and that's it. Said, okay, this is how I like to play. This is how I want to play. But the German game, all about the transition, all about the counter. We have to include that too. Okay, so it's something different. Then you go to Manchester City. Manchester City doesn't play like Barcelona did exactly. Are there hallmarks of it? Yeah. They want to dominate possession. They want the ball. They want to control the game. They don't have the same transition play and the counter play that Bayern had. They have to play a little more vertical because that's how the game is played, and that's how the people like the game in the UK. And I think here what's really interesting for a guy like Frank is he has his touchstones. He wants the ball, wants to dominate the possession, wants to control the play, wants to create with the ball. But I think that side of like what this team is, what Atlanta United soccer is, what American soccer wants, what Atlanta soccer fans want, is all honestly in flux. And he's going to have a hand in shaping a lot of that. I think it's an exciting thing. Because if you start to see, let's take it a step further. We've talked about Ajax and what they have coming up this week in the second leg of the Champions League semis. That generation coming through. That generation watched from the Ajax Academy what De Boer's teams did in winning 4 straight titles. De Boer's teams watched what had happened before when De Boer was on the field winning Champions League in 95. You had that. So you come through and you play like the legends that played before you. You played in a style similar to the way Ajax teams played before you. If you see youth clubs around the Atlanta area and around the Southeast with kids who are Atlanta United fans who now start to value possession and dominate the ball and want to get better technically and want to be stronger soccer players, more proficient, that's a great thing for the game in this part of the country. And it's a great thing for this club as a whole. And long term, it's the right play. And I hope he starts to get the credit that he deserves, because I think he has taken what he came in, wanted to do, why he was hired, and has worked to adapt it to the players that he has here and the style of play that works for them. And he's finding a hybrid. It's not a done deal yet, and it probably won't ever be because you're always evolving. But he's finding it pretty quickly. I like where it's headed.
Inigo Montoya, with an overreaction, a reaction, a question, and an observation. So let's take this step at a time. The overreaction, in all capital letters, hells to the yes, exclamation point, that's how we're supposed to look. And this was written at 4:02 this morning, so Inigo Montoya is up very early. The question, IIRC, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
Is that what that means?
Yes.
I'm 78 years old.
Yes.
The acronyms I'm lost on. Most, if not all, of our goals this season have come in transition or as a result of transition rather than through patient build-up play. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around FDB's system, so help me understand if this is by design or happenstance.
This is the thing I don't understand. Nick, you got to help me with this.
Okay.
Having possession, why is it so common that this is seen as a bad thing? Why would patient possession be described as a bad thing?
It depends on your audience. I think if you have patient possession in Spain, it's a beautiful thing. If you have patient possession on defense in Italy, it's a wonderful thing. But there are certain audiences that don't enjoy that. They don't enjoy that 1-0, 80%, 85% possession game. And so we have to, sports are entertainment, and you have to entertain your audience. And I don't know necessarily that MLS audiences are necessarily ready for that. And that's not a slap down at all. I mean, I think it would be the same thing in Argentina. But in my opinion,
I don't know about that.
Well, certain teams.
You do get the different cultures, though. I mean, I'm with you on that 100%. Like, defensive play is embraced and loved in Italy for a team that sits and defends and is gritty and wins a game that way. It's loved there more than it would be in Spain, for example.
Yeah. And so, even I just believe that it's looked upon as a negative because if you have possession, you should do something with it. And the idea, even with this Ajax offense, right, the Ajax system, however you want to structure it, it's designed to go. There's an article I read a while back, and I talked about it when we first hired Frank de Boer, that even Bielsa looks at the Louis van Gaal Ajax teams and says, I enjoy that. I love that. I think it's great the way that
he
they
said
play.
It's organized. That was the thing that he said about that 95 team. And that's when you look at – so we'll go really philosophical in a second because this has been in my head honestly, since the match last night, and I saw some of the responses. You see between the Dutch schools of the game, you have Johan Cruyff, which is just completely idealistic. You have to entertain, you have to have the ball, you have to score goals, but it's all about possession. Louis van Gaal, a lot of those same things, but Van Gaal is more of got to stay organized. There has to be order to this beautiful work. And those two sometimes would butt heads because of that, because it's two sides of the same coin, but there is that difference between order and some chaos. But both are based on possession, and Ajax is still a team that wants a lot of the ball.
And yes, and let's break it down even to last season, right, where we had that the 4-2-3-1, and then there was that very cavalier style of play in the regular season, and then later in the season, when the stakes got higher, we switched to the 3-5-2, right? And we were not scoring at the clip that we were earlier in the season. But no one seemed to complain because they understood there was a method to the madness. And I think that that's where this fan base probably, I would like to see them go, is to start kind of understanding the method to the madness. And possession is a good thing, and there will be something that will come of it. Now, there's only one ball on the field. And as long as we possess that ball and can and move the ball where we want and when we want and help set up the opponent how we want to set them up, goals will come. And eventually, when it becomes fluid, goals will come in bunches as long as we're playing the way that we need to play. I love the philosophy of Cruyff, which is, hey, win, lose, draw, there's a way we're going to play. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. I understand the Van Gaal, hey, we need to win and we need to be organized and we will play our certain way, but we will, if we will do what we have to do within the parameters of organization to get it done. I do think that at some point, I hope anyway, that the fan base will understand the method behind the madness and give possession baseball a chance. But it is. It's sort of a philosophical discussion on what's more important to you. At the end of the day, as a soccer fan, you have to answer that to yourself. And that's part of what I think drew a lot of people to Atlanta United was that cavalier play. It's so exciting. Oh my God, the games are so fun. Possession slows it down. And if you're not thinking about the game a certain way, almost like a high-level baseball fan, right? The people who understand the shifts and the subtle nuances, it may not be as exciting for you. But I think as we grow as a soccer audience and we understand possession and what we can do with it in certain situations, then I think we'll start to really appreciate that 1-2-0 game where we do have 85% possession and keep the ball away from somebody and clown them half to death on the field, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's this weird thing, and I don't know where it's come from in the United States. I don't know, because Spain has their touch zones of, especially in the last 15, 20 years, of Barcelona, the dream team of Cruyff that Guardiola played on, then Rijkaard, then Guardiola managing the team, possession, style, flair, but also, a lot of the ball. And at times, teams would do what Colorado did, what Dallas did to Atlanta, sit back. So Barcelona had to have a lot of possession. They had to try to break it down. It's difficult. That would happen. That's part of the game in Spain. That's what they know. That's what they expect. It's what they appreciate. Italy has their defensive culture because of the managers you've had there, the tactics, the strategies. England has their direct play. As we said about Germany, they have their counterattacking play. The Dutch have their style. The Dutch style has heavily influenced both the German and the Spanish style, specifically because of the Ajax to Barcelona pipeline that has been there since Cruyff went to Barcelona in the 70s. What is that for American soccer? I don't know. I don't think anything's defined. I don't think there's anything like that. There's no touchstones with the national team. I mean, Bruce Arena's style, I don't really have an easy way to describe it. Bob Bradley's style with the national team. Bob Bradley now has a more defined style with LAFC. With the national team, there really wasn't like one specific thing. He did a lot of 4-4-2 and a lot of, one of the strikers dropping into the hole because he'd have two holding midfielders and the wingers would provide the creativity. That's probably the number one thing I come up with. Jurgen Klinsmann talked about coming in and being proactive. Never happened. There was a lot of talk, but you never saw it. And before that, I mean, there's nothing historical to look back at. You know?
No.
I mean, you're going back to Steve Sampson and his 3-6-1 that lasted for a year, which was kind of ahead of the time, to be honest, because now you see teams play a 3-6-1, which is funny. Bora being very defensive, Bob Gansler with a bunch of college kids. So, like, there's nothing to say this is what works in the United States. And I think that's why the job was kind of appealing to Frank DeBoer, because he gets to come in and really, in some ways, educate, but also build something and find, okay, this is what I believe. I believe you need a lot of the ball to be successful. And I 100% agree with that. I think saying, and that's why I really bristle at the possession is bad.
Mm-hmm.
No. You score goals if you have the ball. Like, period. You have a better chance to score if you have the ball. That's kind of an easy thing to wrap your head around. Possession is not bad. It's what you do with it. And let's go to the goals last night. First goal, possession. Wasn't a turnover, wasn't a press, wasn't any of that. It's Darlington Nagbe after you had worn down Sporting Kansas City and made them chase and made them work side to side and made them defend for long stretches. Darlington Nagbe eliminated 2 defenders with a ball, splitting them, going to Barco. Barco accelerates into the gap, takes a shot. Joseph finishes the rebound. Okay. I mean, it's transition, kind of, but you had possession. You can have quick transitions in possession. And I think that's where you were touching on, Nick, with the way Ajax plays. Like, Ajax wants as much of the ball as they're going to get. If they could have 100% of the possession, they would do it. But what they're good at, because this is just second nature to them, is they're good at changing the pace, speeding it up, slowing it down, adjusting, and picking on elements of the opposition. That's where you can have transition inside of possession. Ajax is good at it. Barca was great at it. The Pep Guardiola teams at Bayern and Manchester City are great at it. You can have both.
The observation from Inigo Montoya, and Nick, we'll start with you first. It's much easier to see PT's quality on TV than in the stadium. Seeing the whole field makes things he does make more sense, and you can see how close he is to connecting on some amazing plays. When the timing is down, this front line will be scary.
Yeah, I can. My standpoint on PT is that the television is more forgiving because you can see where he was trying to go because you have 5 different cameras monitoring the play. And in the stadium, I think when things get missed, all we see is, the ball gets played in. We can sort of see what the general setup is, but we may not necessarily, depending on where you're sitting, see how close it was to being completed, right? So you see the miss, the frustration, and then the play continues. I think the television can be more forgiving with PT, but I think in general it speaks to a larger call for patience with PT, because as much as we tried chasing Barco out of town before, and we said, with the active indiscretion that we'll leave as is, and then his benching and coming off the bench and playing in spells, all of that led to this. Well, one thing with development is that there is still a learning process that has to take place, and you can't have the great and the excellent without the bad and the good. And I think that in this process with PT, we're starting to see more of the good, and with timing, with understanding, I think we will see something that's going to be unbelievable. Will be absolutely transcendent when it clicks. There is risk reward. The click may not come, but I'm sorry. I think I'm tired of hearing, I thought this guy was the reigning South American Player of the Year. Yes, he is. And he had a hell of a time at River Plate when he first came in, and they wanted him gone. They wanted to run him out of town. And now they sing songs with him everywhere he goes. They're throwing River jerseys at him, pleading for him to sign. We saw this at Kansas City.
Saw it in Costa Rica.
There's a reason why these people do this. And I promise you guys, they don't do this for bums. Okay? If you're just some bum player, they don't care about you. And PT's anything but a bum. So I think the television is more forgiving. You can see where things were going. You can see how close it was to completion. I hope that in general, though, that we understand that there's bigger and better and brighter things for Mr. Martinez in the future.
For players like Pitti, you want a lot of the ball to be able to feed them. Pitti, I don't think, is as effective playing strictly in a transition style. And again, so much of it goes back to controlling matches. This is not anything that's brand new for this club, because that was where Tata Martino was headed last year. You look back at some of the big results last year. Now, your big results in 2018, your big wins, okay? LAFC, you won 5-0 at home. You only had 41% of the possession there. And you didn't really put that one into the 5-0 category until the 88th minute. It was 2-0, 67th minute with Joseph's goal. He scored 3 goals from the 88th minute beyond. So that scoreline feels bigger than it is. But you were big in transition in that one. Okay. Orlando, 4-0 win at home. You had 62% of the possession. You dominated it. A player like Pitti is going to be better in that Orlando game because you want to give him the ball. You want to let him do what he does. And I think he's getting more and more confident each week because the team's playing well. And you can't underestimate the effect of like last night's win, regardless of who Kansas City had at center back. You can't underestimate the fact that you were able to dominate that game, control that game, get a lot of touches, and feel really good coming out of it. Because that's going to carry over to Wednesday night, y'all. When now you come into this and Pitti has a little bit of that extra pressure because Barco's away with the U20s. But he's ready to embrace it because he's feeling pretty good about where the team is. And you've built those connections even further. Pitti and Gressel last night looking for one another quite a bit. It's good things. And Pitti is starting to bring it together. It's not there yet. It's starting to come together, though.
Well, and let's not put this 110% on Pitti as well. Let's also look at the fact that the other players have to get used to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his pace. So a ball that you may have been able to play into, through a channel where a Miguel Almiron would have been dead sprinting to get there, that's not happening. So you have to, recalibrate how you play with him as well. So it's all part of the process. So it's not just on Pitti, it's also on the players around him who will help feed him the ball. And then in transition with that, how Pitti will, send the ball, redistribute the ball somewhere else. So there's going to be subtle changes here and there, but once it all clicks, it's going to be something special. Very rarely, I think Miguel Almiron's effort, speed, and a lot of the measurables that we talk about with athletes helped bridge that gap that normally exists for most players coming in. I think that, there were games where Miguel could rely on his athleticism a little more to help make things happen when that chemistry wasn't necessarily there. And I think that with the example I want to give is more of a timing quarterback. Like if you have a true option quarterback in football, with their legs and with their arm, they can just make magic happen. And think about like Vince Young, Michael Vick, those guys when they were in college, they were just electric. They could do crazy
Lance
things.
McElhaney at SMU.
There you go. Perfect. There you go. And Cam Newton, but there's some guys that they are timing quarterbacks. They have to get into a rhythm and they have to be able to set up, have some bad throws. So that way in the fourth quarter, they can make magic happen. I think that's more of Pitti. I think that he's more of that traditional pocket passer quarterback style that they need reps, they need rhythm. And when it clicks, it's going to be something stupid. It's just going to happen. So if you want to look at it from that way, that's how I would kind of equate it. But it's going to happen, guys.
My comparison with Miguel was always Michael Vick. and you always had the speed to fall back on. You know, you wanted to combine, you wanted to develop, you wanted to do different things, but play breaks down, you're not able to find those connections. You always have flat-out game-breaking speed. Miguel always had that to fall back on. That's not Pitti. Pitti is a player who cherishes having the ball at his feet and being able to do things with it that there's not many players in this league who can do the things with a ball at their feet that Pitti Martinez can. He's a special player. Special players sometimes need a little more time. They just do. He's got to adjust to the way that the game is played here, the way his teammates play, the way Atlanta United has played. And, yeah, they still, at times, you can almost feel it like they're looking for Almiron on the field because you always had that outlet. Okay, you don't have that now. I think you're starting to get past that now. You're starting to realize, you know what, we can do this by passing and making the other team work and creating the holes that way. We can do this. Pitti's going to ease into that. Just like DeBoer is adjusting his expectations coming in, what his style is, what his style wants to be, with what he has to work with. I think Pitti's kind of going through that same thing right now. And he's had 2 performances that, again, I think it's just getting better and better, more complete. I thought he was pretty good last night. All told, I thought he was pretty good.
Something else. Go ahead, John.
No, I was just finish your thought because I need to start the next thought. So go ahead and wrap.
Okay.
Just go ahead and go with your thought, Nick.
I think one thing that doesn't necessarily help Pitti is he makes it look so damn easy. Like when he's weaving, like with Miguel when he was running, like the back was like he looked like Roadrunner, like the back was arched.
The ostrich.
The head would go back.
The ostrich. Yeah, I mean, you could just see, man, this guy is putting out the effort. And with Pitti, he like weaves between 3 guys so effortlessly that you're like, is he trying? Is this a top level effort for him?
He's floating.
Yeah, it's just different. It's just all different. So I'll leave it with that. John, fire away with your next thought, sir.
All right, so we are 7 minutes to the top of the hour, and I know that, Jason, you turn into a pumpkin at some point.
At some point,
What do you want to...
I
was going to say, what... All right, we'll keep going. Ricky Ricard...
Yes.
True, but we also have to get
pumpkin.
to... Yeah, but we also have to get to Premier League down here at some point in the next 6 minutes, true?
Well, let's do that real quick then while we've got Nick. So let's start Premier League. We'll get into just what happened today. I mean, Vincent Kompany, if you haven't seen it, whoa.
Filthy.
Wow. And, I mean, the guy absolutely deserves it. He has been the just figurehead for Manchester City since they started this whole process of turning into a major club, and might be his last year with them, might be his last year as a player, period, and to have a moment like that, that might have won the title.
It was an absolutely it was a shot that you're going to see on Premier League highlight videos for the next 3 decades. That's the kind of shot it was. And
it's not quite Aguero, but it's up there.
It depends on how you view it, because when he was traveling up with the ball, it was like, all right, when's the dump off happening? When's the dump off happening? Oh my God, he's going for the shot.
Yeah.
And the way that shot curved and hooked, it's something that I cannot describe and have it and translate the electricity that came from that damn shot. But I'm telling you, you need to, as soon as our show is over, click it up, run the highlight, and you will see yourself. But spot on analysis about Kompany. That guy, he has done everything that team has asked him to do.
Hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's been that guy. Every manager they've gone through, he's been the man for that club. And he's one of those guys that, okay, do you bring him back for another year where he might give you, 15 matches or so? Generally, you wouldn't do that. He's the guy that you would do that for.
But for me, when you saw the players on the pitch at the Etihad when the match was over, and the Steadicam was in Kompany's grill for multiple minutes, and he was taking the walk around the pitch, to me, I got the sense that he was done. That you can't. It looked like someone who was enjoying the last time, because then his family comes out on the field. His 4 kids come out on the pitch. He shares it with them. Yes, it was the last home match of the season, but for me, you had that look on his face like, I think I'm good now. And so I think, and I have zero background intel on any of this, but I think that Vincent Kompany retires as a member of Manchester City when his contract is up.
I don't think he goes elsewhere. Yeah, I don't think he's going to go play for another random club. I think if Manchester City says, look, we just can't do it, we're not going to bring you back as part of the staff, I think he retires. But if he wants to go and be a part-time player and maybe start, I don't know, his coaching badges, whatever, he's a guy that I would do that for him if he wanted to do it if I'm Manchester City, because he's that meaningful to the club.
Yeah. I mean, I would keep him as in the fold as he wants to be. If he wants to learn how to be a coach and get his license and do that and have him work with the academy kids. I mean, seriously, if you're with the academy and you get to learn from Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
So
no,
lock it
I'm
down.
not letting him leave the building. If I'm that organization, he's not leaving the building. Guys, I want to retire. I want to go home. I want to go on vacation. Good. You have an open account with us. Anywhere you want to go, it's first class all the way for you and your family. Anywhere you want to stay, first class for you and your family. And when you're ready, you're coming back. And just so you know, you're still on the payroll. You're not leaving this group. Hell or high water, you're not leaving. It's the mafia. You're in and you're stuck.
You can't let him go. Champions League returns tomorrow, second leg, semifinals. I don't know how much there is to dig into Barcelona and Liverpool. 3-0 down, Liverpool's at Anfield. Is it a special Champions League night at Anfield? Any chance of that?
No.
Okay, well, as the person who supports a team that has fallen victim to this before, I will tell you that it is absolutely possible, and stranger things have happened. Remember that AC Milan team that was the victim. I have trouble even putting my thoughts together, recalling it from one night in Istanbul. I think that was probably one of the best Champions League sides that AC Milan has ever put out there. Mm-hmm. And I will say that if they can be throttled in that fashion, I think that Barcelona can be throttled in that fashion. And I think that Barcelona has a far leakier back line than that AC Milan side did all those years ago. So I think it can absolutely happen. Likely, no. I'll give it a 10% shot, but that's Nick's betting line right there. That's you have a 10% shot of a recap of one night in Istanbul.
I think Liverpool wins on the night, but I think they go out. They are looking to become only the third team in the history of the European Cup / Champions League to come from 3 goals down after the first leg of a semifinal and progress to the final. Only 2 other times it's happened. Panathinaikos in 1971 and Barcelona in 1986. That's it. That's the type of road you're looking at here. And you don't have Mo Salah, and you don't have Roberto Firmino.
Yeah, no, you're making sure that you're ready for the last game of the Premier League season against a very tough Wolves side. And if things get a little crazy on the last day of the regular season, you still have that opportunity to get the Premier League title. So my answer is no, it is not going to happen for Champions League over there. And I just move on from that and head to the next.
Yeah, let's head to the other semifinal before.
Yeah, let's head to that one.
Ajax and Tottenham. Ajax 1-0 lead going back to Amsterdam. I just told you how bleak it is for Liverpool based off history. Only one of the 17 previous teams to lose the first leg at home in a Champions League or European Cup semifinal has made it to the final. It was Ajax in 96. They lost 1-0 at home in the first leg before they went to Greece and beat Panathinaikos 3-0. Going to Ajax is not exactly, especially this season, like going to Greece to beat Panathinaikos in 1996. I think it's going to be a fun match, though. I don't think it's going to be an easy one, but Ajax holds all the cards.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still riding with Ajax. Go ahead, John.
No, I'm down with you. I'm down with you there. I agree. I'm still riding with Ajax, and it's Ajax and Barca in your final.
The thing with this Ajax side that I just love is it's not the way that they attack on offense. It's when they have to transition to defense. I swear to God, it's murder the man with the ball. The way that they swarm to anybody who has the ball for the other team, and it's an unbelievable amount of pressure. And you're thinking, well, they can do this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Wait, hold up. They can't keep doing this. And all 90, they are bringing this level of energy, this youthful, insane level of energy that I just don't think that a lot of these more established sides are used to handling. And the way that they're playing, they know they're going to be gone next year. And there's sort of a freedom in that. They don't have like, well, how am I going to show my face in Amsterdam after this big game? Well, you're not going to, pal. You're going on a €150 million transfer to somewhere else. So when you have that level of freedom, that level of organization, the energy and the tenacity that they have, I think Ajax walks out with another 1-0 win.
And how many papers in Europe are going to have?
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, how many papers across Europe are going to have afternoon delete as their headline?
Well, it depends on what he does. Let's wait and see. But Ajax have lost their last 3 games in the Champions League at the Amsterdam Arena. They drew 2 of them, which would be all they would need here. They lost 1. It's kind of weird. They could be the 4th team to reach the Champions League final with more wins away from home than at home in that season. Just kind of crazy. I wonder how they're going to deal with the pressure, because I think now it gets really, really real for them, where you are in the driver's seat. You're not the fashionable underdog. You're the favorite here pretty overwhelmingly. And you're at home to do it. I want to see how they handle it. They should handle it. They have the pieces to handle it. They haven't been in this situation. Ajax in Europe hasn't been in this situation since, honestly, you're going back to the Cruyff days. You're going back to the early 70s days where Ajax was a favorite in this type of thing. Their run to win it in 95, they were the last smaller, in air quotes, team to win the Champions League. This is different. This is a different feel, and they're young. If Tottenham's going to flip it, they've got to come out with such an amazing start to make Ajax doubt themselves. That's the only way Spurs flip it. If Ajax gets through the first 15 minutes unscathed, they win. They go through.
Well, I will say this before I depart. I have seen nothing from this team. Real Madrid, they have not faced a team like Real Madrid before. Oh, my God, this is so next level. Gone. Juventus, they've never faced a team this organized. They've never faced a defense like this, a team that can systematically break you down and counter, and they have Cristiano Ronaldo up top to punish you. The greatest Champions League goal scorer ever. Vanquished. I don't think that an injury hit side like Spurs, exhausted side like Spurs, are. I think these kids, they don't care. And I think even if Spurs were completely healthy, Ajax still wouldn't care. These kids they are unbothered. And so, and much like Game of Thrones, they are my Unsullied. They are absolute warlords. I salute them, and they are the fairy tale pick, baby. We're going to get a beautiful football final between Barcelona and the absolute weaponized next level version of what Ajax strived to be all those years ago under Johan Cruyff, versus the original resurgent side of Ajax. It's going to be beautiful. Must-see TV. I would pay to watch that. And with that, gentlemen, I have to go in and do dinner with the fam. So I salute everyone out there. Thank you.
All the way, y'all.
Mucha Euro, guys.
Appreciate it, Nick. Make sure you're following him, Nick Alifi, on Twitter. Soccer Over There will return in its normal time slot next week. Last thing on Ajax and Spurs from me, I think if Spurs gets a goal in the first 20, it's going to be wild. They need that early goal to have a shot here. Ajax has been able to do this with winning second legs on the road where they've been underdogs. This is just a different situation, and you want to see how they respond.
And we'll go through Twitter until you bring up the white flag.
Yeah, we'll hit some more Twitter. Sorry, folks. We've been rambling about philosophy a lot today. Hope
Bardem
it's
is
been somewhat
brought
enjoyable.
with an interesting thought. Vincent Company to NYCFC.
If he wants to. If he wants to, City Football Group would make it happen for him. It just goes back to whatever he wants to do, you're going to facilitate that for him if you're City Football Group because of what he's given to them. And at a time where they needed to build a culture and build an identity, he's been the consistent link from the beginning of the project until now. So if he decides that, hey, I'd like to play a year or two in New York and experience that for me and my family, and I can help out for the coach, I can work with the academy over there. If he wants to do it, yes, they should make that happen for him. I don't know if he wants to. It depends on what he wants to do at this point.
Kevin from Charlotte, who might be in Charleston, says he'd like to see PT take some more shots from distance like earlier in the year.
Ooh, some people are going to get fired up about that. I'm good with it. Atlanta's taken a lot of shots from distance more than usual this season. They've dialed that back a little bit, although Barco's goal from outside the 18 was the first goal Atlanta United scored from outside the 18 all season.
Katie Weaver had a couple of thoughts, and I'm going backwards. So, Katie, I apologize for doing things in reverse. Repossession, etc. She says, I mean, this is a fan base that grew to love a pitcher's duel in the 90s. Greg Maddux was a freaking artist. If PT isn't run and gun with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, I don't care as long as his and Barco's artistry can flourish.
Yeah, it's different. I'm really curious to see what that is. And the more that I read and I consume and learn and am reminded of different clubs around the world that have that identity. You don't have many of those types of clubs in the United States, and you can't really have that history with a 2-year-old club. So I think everyone, fan base included, is trying to figure out, okay, what do we stand for? And I don't know if anybody really knows that yet, but I think that's one of the things on the checklist for Frank de Boer is to help define what that is and what this team looks like on the field, what it looks like with the second team, what it looks like through the academy, what an Atlanta United player is, and what an Atlanta United team plays like. And it's a work in progress. But you can dominate possession and be explosive. I mean, Barcelona, Lionel Messi helps you be explosive. You don't have to have Lionel Messi to be explosive. Look at what Bayern Munich did. Look at what Manchester City did. They have found different ways to be explosive but dominate possession. Other teams around the world do the same stuff. You can have both, but generally you don't get both straight out of the gate. It takes time to where your possession speeds up because you're not having to think about where the 9 is, where the winger is, where my outside back is tucked in. You don't have to look around. You don't have to think about it. Because you've drilled it and drilled it and drilled it and drilled it. And that's where the Louis van Gaal influence is going to come with Frank, is that repetition, that consistency, that organization. You're going to be able to play faster once it becomes second nature. It can't be second nature right now.
Katie Weaver's first one that set up her one that we read previously. She asks, is the team possibly feeling the weight of the Benz? What was such a fortress has been less so. Yes, teams play us differently at home, but it's almost as if Atlanta United has played freer with less pressure away. And then a question, higher or lower home winning percentage this season?
It's such a small sample size. I mean, it's lower because you've had those draws and you had the loss to Dallas. But I think it's more of the way teams play. I think this is becoming something you see more often. And it's funny. I was listening on the plane ride back. I was listening to a podcast with Guardiola last year after the season, and that's exactly what he talked about was, teams would come into the Etihad and play very defensive against them and bunker down, and it was hard. And then when Manchester City would go on the road, it was a little more free because teams were not bunkering as much at home. You get some who do, but not as much. That's what Atlanta United's going to face. That's what they've been facing, to be honest, is generally teams will come into the bends, and I think it's only going to increase, especially with inferior competition. We got to get numbers behind the ball. We can't get run out of the building. We got to keep it tight as long as we can. And then when you play them in their building, okay, they're going to try to play their game. Now, I think the idea from the Atlanta United perspective over time is you will see adjustments based off the opposition, like you saw Michael Parkhurst at left back because of Johnny Russell cutting inside. You wanted Parkhurst to deal with that. He did. You'll see that, but you'll see consistency in Atlanta United's going to have a lot of the ball, whether they're at home against a team that's bunkering or on the road against a team who wants the ball, like Kansas City. Kansas City never wants to be in that type of position where they're not dominating possession. That's not how they play, and they looked uncomfortable. Atlanta United wants to be comfortable in their style against whatever type of system the opposition throws. But at the bends, it's going to be more bunker, definitely.
A couple of teams today in the news and notes section have announced academies and youth leagues and things like that. Birmingham Legion announced the launch of a youth league today with 6 Alabama clubs being featured. So,
yeah, it's a pre-academy league. So it's like 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds playing and Legion's putting the league together for the existing clubs. It's a good precursor to a full-blown academy down the road and creating those relationships. The kids that are involved in this will get tickets to Legion games. I think they get a season ticket. And Legion crests will be on all of the jerseys involved. It's a great way to facilitate something to help the development of the game in Birmingham. It's a really cool partnership that Legion's put together.
And let's see, Andrew Baker, soccer listing in Germany. When he first had his response, he said he hadn't watched the full game, but he said, having said that, Barco just seems miles better than last year, maybe seeing Almiron do what he does, tracking back in parentheses, and then getting sold for huge money has had a big impact on him. Couldn't have hurt.
It's funny. I mean, we all zero in on the tracking back as this big thing. It was one time. And ideally, you don't want to be in a position where you have to. You don't want to have to track back 50 yards. That means things have broken down a little bit. So it's very identifiable. It wasn't even that for me from Barco last night. That was a great moment, and it was a great, I think, demonstration of his commitment to the club. But I liked the fact that when the ball turned over in the attacking half, he didn't have to track back 50 yards. He stepped hard in 5-yard increments to win the ball back, and he did that a lot last night. And Nagbe did that a lot. That was what was impressive to me. Barco is a hardworking player, and he's a player who gets what it takes. I think now he's just in a position where he has been given the freedom. He has also been given the confidence from the staff and from his fellow players to lead this group and be a focal point for this team in the attack. And he's getting goals to show for it. He's feeling it right now. It's a good spot for him.
Ricky Ricardo has 4 steps, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase here because his first 2 are about Barco. Said he was immense last night. The term coming out party shouldn't be used. And if you didn't know who Barco was, you certainly know who he is now.
100%.
And he says, losing Barco, he says he hopes that PT can step up and fill that role. Last 2 points. Going to be interested to see where there's rotation and what that would look like, because now that we see what the team looks like running optimally, we have to gain as much as we can during the stretch and hold on as much as possible.
You need to come out and win as many games as you can early, because that momentum can be contagious. And you got started with a great one in Kansas City. You get back home for Toronto on a Wednesday night. You take care of that. It's not going to be easy. Then you go into Orlando. I mean, you could be set up for a 9-point week, which would be massive. Then it gets really difficult. You go to Vancouver on short rest. You go to Red Bull Arena on short rest. You get a little more time. You go to Salt Lake City. All difficult. So take advantage of these matches where you're flying. Keep your pedal down, and rotate when you need to. That's what I'm curious to see, when that starts, how it starts, and how much Frank DeBoer is comfortable with that at this stage. How strongly he feels like he knows the different permutations of his group right now. Does he trust a John Gallagher yet? Does he trust a Dion Pereira as a starter yet? Does he trust an Andrew Carlton as a starter yet? We're going to find out over this next month.
And Ricky also says he hasn't had that much fun watching a match in a while. He says it's strange because we've won a couple of matches, but this was the team I love, and I hope we can build on it. That was his last point.
It was the perfect combination of dominating possession, controlling the match, but still looking explosive and getting goals to show for it. It was a really good combination of all of those things last night. You never really felt like you were at risk after the first couple minutes. You just broke Kansas City down with your game plan and then took full advantage.
Let's see. That's my mother-in-law, so I'm not going to answer the phone. Well, because I know who she wants to talk to, and it's the boss. It's not me.
I thought it might be Francisco Calvo calling.
Well, but then that would have been a great get if we could have gotten Calvo for the interview. I thought that would have been really good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sherbs wanted to know if there was any explanation for the phantom yellow on Remedi. He was dribbling, gets slide tackled, gets up, receives a card.
Just a bad call. They don't give explanations on every card. I'm assuming that Chapman felt like the slide from Ilie that Remedi could have avoided stepping on him. I think that would have been magical from Remedi if he could have done that, if he could have levitated. So I thought it was a bad call. It happens.
Let's see. I'm trying to go through here. Alex wants to know, at Cuppers wants to know if Barco has to go.
Yes. It's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for the club. It's a good thing for the league. And it's a pretty exciting deal. It's a big honor. So, yes, there's no question there. And if Carlton gets called up, he has to go too.
Let's see. Who else do we have here on the board? I think we are kind of running down when it comes to everyone who chimed in on SDH PM. There are a couple of side conversations that are going on. And, thanks to everybody who is joining in on those kind of conversations. Okay, Caleb Cook with something formational with Barco gone to the U20s.
Okay.
Wants to see if we simply see Tito on the left, PT in the middle with Barco gone, or is it something different? PT's clearly growing more comfortable as the team plays better, and thought he was going to open his account last night.
I think that's probably the most obvious one. And if it does, then it just changes things a little bit in the way that you've worked, where Gressel's been a little more of a complementary piece, getting 40, 50 touches a game versus Barco's 75, 80. You want Tito probably getting Gressel-type touch numbers, about 50, and you want Gressel getting more of Barco's numbers. So you want to play a little more through Gressel than through Tito. You want to hit Tito on the break. It just changes that dynamic a little bit. Pitti stays the same. I mean, if you get him a few more touches, great. That's fine. But, yeah, I could see that. You wouldn't get quite as much interchange unless Gressel's coming inside and Pitti is going into that role on the right side. I think maybe you could see actually Tito move over to the right side and Gressel move over to the left where he's cutting in on the right foot. You could see some of that too. If you get the fluidity of how this group looked in an attacking perspective last night with Joseph, Pitti, Barco, Gressel, very interchangeable, cool. You can start them wherever you want, but they're going to find the space and they're going to combine to create more.
Swickster's got a couple. He says his thoughts are Sporting's injury depleted, can't be ignored. 2, Atlanta United looked for 60 minutes like the Atlanta United that played in the second half against Colorado. This is a very good thing. 3, PT looked confident, almost opened his MLS account. 4, all 3 goals came from Barco being in the middle or mid-right of the pitch in the number 10 spot. Despite starting left wing, it's becoming clear he's currently a better 10 than PT, but having to lose him for a month, PT has to find that 10 role.
Depends on how you define the 10 role. I mean, if the 10 for you is being central, I do like Barco a little more in the middle, and I like him getting a lot of touches. That's what I like. But if he starts on the left and he's coming inside, or if it's, he's got a matchup he likes on the left and he stays out left, that's fine. I just want him getting those touches. That's the biggest thing. And if Pitti feels more comfortable drifting out, or if Barco comes in to create an overload, or if Pitti comes inside to create an overload and it's working, it's fine by me. I'm moving past where, I think you have to define it in straight lines. I don't think that's how this team's going to look as a whole down the road. It's going to be fluid, and guys are going to interchange, and they're going to find Pitti getting a bunch of touches on the left one week, and then on the right one week, and then in the middle the next week, and vice versa for Barco. So Barco, for me, is the attacking conductor. Nagbe is a conductor as a whole. He can be an attacking conductor as well. Pitti is more of a finisher in a different way that Joseph is. Joseph is a straight-up finisher, goal scorer. That's what he's going to do, although he is creating more for others. Pitti is a finisher in terms of finishing plays off, whether for himself or for others. Gressel can do a little of both. But those roles are really important, more so than where they are and if it's a 10, if it's a wing, whatever. I think it's more of you want Nagbe and Barco setting the pace. You want Joseph and Pitti finishing plays. And you want Gressel honestly figuring out which one needs support. If Gressel needs to drop in and help Nagbe and Barco control the pace, cool. He can do that. If you need that extra bit of quality in the final third, that cross from out wide on the right that we know Gressel can deliver, he can do that. That's the way I'm seeing this attack kind of evolve as we go. Now, Tito comes in, and he's a finisher, and that's where you get into that different role. So if you're looking at it that way, and you have Tito, Pitti, Joseph, all looking to finish plays, Gressel then has to become more involved in the organization of the attack and being that conductor along with a Nagbe. And a Pitti has to give you some of that. That's where you're looking at different roles evolve with Barco out.
Okay, we have 2 more, and then I think we're officially caught up.
Ay, Dios mío.
Kevin from Charlotte, by the way, unrelated, was actually in Charlotte. So he's in Charlotte. And let's see, where was I? And by the way, thanks to everybody who went on our social media this morning and on Twitter and however you accessed us and reached out and said what you said about the show being pushed back to the PM and posted like the Dave Chappelle gifts and things like that about getting your Joneses in the morning. So that was very, very humbling. And thank you for posting those kinds of things about us being available in the evening and not being there in the morning for you.
Y'all crazy.
Yeah, y'all crazy. Okay, Eichmann. He says he's liking his December #overreaction Monday prediction. Happy for Barco. Sad he's off with Argentina for the rest of the month. He says Barco's been our MVP so far this season. His original tweet, I don't need to take back in 12 months. Barco's Atlanta's MVP in 2019. Said that back in December.
Miles is pushing him, but yeah, I think Barco has been everything you could have hoped for this season so far, and I hope that he goes to Argentina and kills it, and people start talking about, man, Atlanta United is signing players like this, and they're signing them before they go to the U20 World Cup and kill it. It would be pretty amazing to see an Atlanta United player lift the U20 World Cup trophy in an Argentine shirt for the 7th time in that country's history. Like, it would be a pretty amazing story to see Ezequiel Barco have that type of influence on that team, and that's what you're looking at. Could very well happen. The form he's in right now, Ezequiel Barco should be a big part of Argentina's U20 squad starting here in a couple of weeks.
All right, last one. When you see something written and it mentions a person's name, how many times do you sit there and read what's written in the voice of that person?
It depends. I think I do it without thinking about it, but yeah, it depends on who it is. Some people, yes.
Like Morgan Freeman. If Morgan Freeman is mentioned in a paragraph, you start thinking about something as So you always sit there and there's always that voice in your head that triggers something. Ray Hudson actually was watching the match.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Full-Time Report last night.
And for those that didn't stay up that late, just the fact that
because we were crazy. It was
yes,
insane.
You were. Yes, after having burnt ends and everything else. Did you buy any furniture across the street, by the way?
There was like a furniture mart of Kansas and a Nebraska furniture mart. Like, I mean, it's state on state crime when it comes to furniture.
State on state furniture crime?
I don't know. That's a big deal. It was weird.
But the Ray Hudson tweet, mix a lion with a tiger, you'd get Miles Robinson. Napoleon Dynamite said it'd be a liger. Good lad, Miles, never turn you back on a shot with a kissing emoji.
Yeah, that was one that I'm sure a lot of people were freaking out as you saw Miles Robinson take a shot to the face.
Yeah.
FS1 did a great job with the camera work on that because I noticed it straight away when like our feed, we had the FS1 feed. We didn't have the booth, the truck feed in the booth. So we were on about 30-40 seconds of a delay. And when they like went in with the close-up on Robinson when he was on the ground, he was smiling and interacting and very like together. So when I saw that, I wasn't worried about potential of a brain injury or anything in that regard. And I thought he was going to be just fine, and he was. It appeared. I haven't heard anything to counter that. So that shot though, that was a little scary.
Yes.
Miles is Miles. Miles has been part of 3 clean sheets in the last 4, and he's been a huge part of it. He gives you that safety valve that you didn't have before. And when you add the team that wants to play in possession and wants to dominate that and get more numbers forward, you maybe couldn't have done that last year with Parkhurst and Leandro Gonzalez-Perez as your center backs. You were going to have problems with that because neither one is speedy. Neither one has the range of Miles Robinson. Now, you can be even a little more aggressive because Miles Robinson can clean up just about anything. Good spot.
And Shiva, to answer your question, do you think Barco will come back and pick back where he left off, or would he even be in better form?
Depends on how they do. If he is a part of Argentina winning a World Cup, he could be in even better form. He could also come back and need a little bit of a break, depending on how their tournament goes. The schedule works out pretty well for that, where I don't think he plays in the Open Cup games, even if he's back by then. I think you give him those off, let him recover from what's going to be, a lot of stress, good stress, but stress. Representing your country in a world championship is a big deal. And he's going to need some time to mentally recover from that. But I think it just gives him more confidence. And he's a player who thrives on that. So looking forward to watching him in the Albiceleste with the U20s, and then looking forward to getting him back in hopefully even better form.
We caught up. Y'all crazy.
I'm going to sleep. Hopefully soon. I got to wind down. But thank y'all for listening. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for finding us in a different time slot. We'll be back tomorrow, normal time slot. We'll go through our normal review of the weekend around MLS. We'll talk some NWSL, USL Championship as well. You had 15,000 plus fans at Isotopes Park in Albuquerque because New Mexico United just keeps doing it. You had some big results in NWSL this weekend, and we'll get into our fantasy update as well from the commissioner, Jason Wright of the Jason Wright Agency.
Short week.
We'll do all that tomorrow. A lot of games on Wednesday to talk about as well. So we'll be back with you 9 a.m. till 11 on the app, on soccerdownhere.net, on Spreaker. Thanks for listening. We will talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Much plot to y'all.
Much plot.